What's going on, guys? I am back, and I am predicting the RLCS. So, we already had my baby predict some of these games. They had Energy actually beating Flipside. If you didn't watch that video, it was probably the day before, maybe 2 days before. I haven't really scheduled them all out yet. But now we're going to go into my predictions. You might have heard these from other sources. I was on Leafs podcast a couple weeks back, and you might have seen it there, who I think is going to win. But we're actually going to break down every single match here and just talk about it a little bit of what these teams are coming in to play for, so on and so forth. I am doing this a little bit early. I'm doing this November 23rd because I am leaving for Amsterdam a little bit earlier than most. Me and my wife are going to have a mini vacation right before the LAN, and then yeah, we're going to get full bore into it. So it won't have like recent results. I'm not really going to talk about results anyway. I'm going to talk more about the teams in general. But we're just going to go right through it. And then, of course, guys, if you think someone else is going to win or if you want to do your own predictions, feel free to throw it down in the comments below. So let's get right into it. We'll start off. The opening game is Energy versus Precision Z. So the number one NA team, once again, Energy. They were Kings of Urban last time, if you guys haven't been following too closely. They, again, are the number one seed, but this time they open up the tournament. Last time we had the number one Europe team open it up. This time we have the number one NA team open it up. So the Energy versus Precision Z. Now, most people expect a 1 versus 4 to be kind of a cakewalk, but Precision Z has looked extremely good in recent weeks. They looked really good in the regional playoffs where they beat Market Aces. They look like they finally can contest, possibly, with the big three from Europe. But then again, going into the regional championship, they kind of fell a little flat. So I'm not sure what we're going to see from them. Also, 2 of the 3 of their players are brand new to the LAN experience, and I think that's the biggest edge here that Energy has. The only returning member is Siki, who was on Market last time, but of course Market didn't have the greatest tournament in the world, and Siki's also a little bit shyer, it seemed like. He was a little bit shyer in front of the crowd, so I don't know how that's going to play out. Of course, I'm not trying to make any too many assumptions based on last LAN, because honestly, it was the first LAN. There's only been one. It's very hard to have a trend when there's only been one event. So we'll see how it goes. I want to see how players perform this time around. Because also on the Energy side, they didn't perform all that well either. They got bounced in 2 games. They lost to the Flying Dutchman, and then they lost to Flipside Tactics. The Flying Dutchman loss was the bad one. Flipside, what are you going to do? It's Flipside. So we'll see with that. But I do believe for the NA region as a whole, if they lose this game to start, this could be a really bad tournament for the North America side. This is one of those games where it's going to be like, can you hold serve? And I believe Energy will hold serve for the North America region. Last time, it was, for the last time, the first 8 games were all split 4-4 from North America versus Europe. Then 2 wins in a row for Europe. In the losers, I guess, semifinals, technically, it would be called, which was Flying Dutchman over Genesis, and Northern Gaming, and Flipside over Exodus. But then, of course, Cosmic comes back and wins the whole thing. So in the grand scheme of things, there was 14 matches. Only 2 were not NA versus EU. Those were both EU versus EU. And every other match was NA versus EU, and they finished 6-6. I don't know if that's going to happen because I feel like Europe was the stronger region last time. I think a lot of people got surprised by the first LAN. Plus, a lot of people didn't get a lot of practice time. There wasn't a ton of practice time for the players because, it was like the first event for everyone. So it was a little unorganized, I would say, between everyone. Players didn't bring laptops. The venue itself could only have practice time during certain times. Also, it took a really long time to set up all the computers. And there wasn't as many as probably people expected. So I think we'll see a more competitive game this time because there's going to be a lot more practice computers and a lot more practice time for these players. And I think that'll help Energy a lot because I think last time the lack of practice might have hurt them against a team like Flying Dutchman, who was more about positioning rather than mechanics, while Energy is more about mechanics than probably, I would say, positioning. So I think I think Energy will walk away with this win, but this is not a gimme at all. I think Precision is a pretty good team. Look out for K-Dop trying to make some big plays. I expect him to have a good land, but at the same time, it's his first one, so he could be super nervous. I think if you go for land experience, then Energy is going to feel a lot more comfortable up there. But at the same time, it's in Europe. Energy is had to fly out really, really far. They could be still a little bit tired from the whole process of everything. They get in Wednesday. The match is first thing on Saturday, so we'll see how that goes. But I expect Energy to pull this one out. I'm going to give it a 3-1. I think Precision Z can surprise here. Like, this isn't a gimme at all. But I will give it to Energy Esports 3-1 here. I'm not going to write down the actual match scores because honestly I don't really care if it's 3-1, 3-2 all that much. We're just going to predict the actual bracket here. So Energy will move on there, and Precision Z will have to fight through the lower bracket. Next match, Northern Gaming versus Genesis. So again, there's only one gimme match in this first round, but we'll get there in a second. This is not one of them. Genesis is a weird one because I feel like for the RLCS season as a whole, they couldn't break through the Energy and Orbit squads, but they could do that before RLCS in Rocket Royale. They did it in the middle of RLCS in Market tournament where they 7-2'd Orbit, and they didn't get to play Energy because they lost early on. So Genesis has proven that they can beat these teams in other tournaments. They just haven't shown it in the RLCS Season 2. Again, though, I think this team, besides the teams that are coming back full, might have like some of the most LAN experience, like the most important LAN experience from the last time. Pluto and Espeon, they were in. They got 3-0'd by Northern to start it off. So like this is a pseudo rematch. You know, obviously rosters aren't exactly the same, but we had Pluto and Espeon. They get 3-0'd, then they go down 2-0 to Market. They were literally one game away from not winning a single game at the LAN. They come back and beat Market, which at the time then was also one of the big three. And Genesis, no one expected them to do anything. A lot of people expected them to get 6-0'd out. They come back, reverse sweep, and win that series. Then they go up against Flying Dutchman, and again, they go down 2-0. And again, they battle it all the way back, bring it to Game 5, but then lose out in Game 5. So they've had their backs against the wall a lot at the first LAN, and they were still playing pretty well. Like, their nerves didn't get to them when they were down and basically one game away from going home. So they performed pretty well at that point. Like, if you don't count Northern Gaming, then the elimination games that they had when they were their backs against the wall, they were 5-1, which is pretty impressive. Like, even if you do include Northern Gaming, they were 5-2. So really impressive job by Genesis in those scenarios, but at the same time, you can't go down 2-0. You can't go down in all three sets that they played. They went down 2-0. So sure, it's great to have a reverse sweep, but you need to start off stronger. I think Pluto and Espeon had a lot of LAN experience there. I think they can perform stronger at the start. I just don't know if they will, because again, you're playing the top 8 teams in the world right now, basically. And Northern Gaming, they had a very disappointing regional championship. Like, abysmal. They beat Market in 7, so that was good, at least. Like, they were happy about that. But then when they played Flipside again, they just got destroyed. It wasn't even close. Flipside completely annihilated them, and I could see them being a little bit disappointed in that performance, and maybe coming into the LAN thinking, like, shit, like, if we have to play Flipside again, this could end really, really poorly. At the same time, it could have also lit that fire underneath them, and they've been practicing a ton, which could help a ton here, too. But I do like Northern Gaming here. I like Maestro and Remco. They're insanely good. Genesis is really good on the defensive side. But last time, again, they got a slow start at the LAN, and they haven't proven that they're one of the best teams in RLCS, at least. I'm going to give this to Northern Gaming. I think they will win this. I think it's closer than people think. At the same time, Northern Gaming could just blow them out. Genesis, I feel like, is the wild card here. They could easily go out in 2, or they could make a pretty long run and surprise a lot of people. With Classics coming in as the new player, he's confident, for sure. He's really confident online. He even, for the media, day interviews, he really wants to do it, which is like a good sign for Genesis, because it shows that he really wants to be at the LAN. He's not nervous about being in front of camera. So he's not going to be nervous in front of the crowd, hopefully, like as much. And of course, Pluto and Espeon are there to help him along as well. Problem is, Genesis last time, they also had Quinn. And Quinn, like, I wouldn't say is the best player in the world, but his morale that he brought to Genesis was really important at the first LAN. So they might be lacking that, but I think Pluto and Espeon can make up for what they lost in Quinn. Basically, Quinn showed them the way, and I could easily see Pluto and Espeon carrying that torch. So watch out for Genesis. They're one of those teams I could see people predicting like a top 3, like if they really want to get crazy, or just finishing in 7th. But I am not going to predict them. I am going to go Northern. I think that Europe home field advantage is really going to help here. And I think Northern comes out on top. The hard part is, even just North America and Europe as a region, it's extremely difficult to know exactly how these guys are playing, because there's been like no international events in since the last LAN. The only one there's been, I think, was the Mocket Street League tournament, where Mocket Aces lost to both Energy and Orbit 3-2. That's basically the only one that's happened. That's not really saying much. It was 2 really close series. Of course, there's pain issues and all that stuff too. And that was like a month and a half ago. So it's pretty hard to tell how these regions are going to go. I think Europe was definitely the better region last time, and I think the LAN, made some wild results happen, which could happen easily here as well. My bracket will probably be completely off like last time, but I just think Europe is a stronger region. I think once now we're into the second LAN, a lot of these players are going to be more used to it, know what's coming, know what to expect, and I think Europe might perform a little bit better here. But at the same time, I'm going to have some NA bias. I would love to see a Europe versus NA final, but we'll get there in a bit. Let's go into the next match. This match really doesn't need any conversation. Flipside Tactics versus Take 3. This is the only gimme I feel like here. Flipside should easily 3-0 this series. I could see them losing a game, of course. Take 3 is not like the worst team in the world, but like Flipside's just way too good. And what we saw from Take 3 at the regional championships, when they have to play the better teams, they just got completely outclassed. They couldn't really do much. They were trying to survive on the defensive side. You can't really do that against Flipside to an extent, because like if you allow Flipside to get their normal, like I think it's 10 plus shots a game, eventually you're going to give up bad rebound and Flipside's going to score. Like Flipside's been controlling the game versus basically everyone since after week 3. So I don't expect Flipside to fall to Take 3 at all. But I think Take 3 by far out of the 8 teams here is the weakest team. I don't expect to see much from them. But you never know. Last time, a lot of people thought Genesis and Flying Dutchman weren't all that great. They finished 4th and 5th. So they can surprise. I just don't see it. In basically every single category of skill, Flipside completely outclasses Take 3. It's not even close between the 3 players Flipside has versus the 3 players that Take 3 has. But we've seen bigger upsets before. I mean, we saw Cosmic last time. No one expected anything from them with a sub. They actually came through and won the whole thing. So you never know. But if I had to do one gimme and put some money on it, I would definitely give it to Flipside easily here. 3-0, 3-1 if Take 3 gets a little lucky. Next match. Now, this one's another rematch from the first LAN of the first round. Orbit versus Mocket Aces. So last time it was Exodus. Last time Mocket was technically Mocket EU. I really like their name, Mocket Aces. It's so much better. But this one's probably going to be tight. So Orbit, last time, as we were talking about, Mocket Street League, Orbit beat Mocket Aces 3-2. But, that was a month and a half ago. Orbit looks really good. And a lot of people think that from who I've talked to, like if you're going to choose one NA team to see how far they go, a lot of people have Orbit over Energy. My problem with Orbit is last time when they played both Northern and Flipside, they just got outclassed completely. They play similar styles, but like Flipside and Northern were just better at everything than Orbit at the time. But I think Orbit has improved a ton since the last LAN. So they do have a better chance here. Market Aces has been a little shaky lately. They had a good run through the season until week 4, where all they needed was one win, and they're in, and they lost to Reunited. And then regional playoffs wasn't great. They did bounce back, at least in the regional championships. They lost to Northern in 7, but then they kind of controlled the game versus Precision Z. So I like Market Aces here. Just like a lot of it is due to the Europe home field advantage here. Pesci, he had a terrible land the last time, but again, I don't know how much I want to put that on Pesci necessarily by himself. It's a team game. Their whole team performed poorly. It could have been like a mixture of many things. I think Pesci, he's very confident. I don't think he's going to have a lot of nerves going in, but Devo and Violent Panda are huge question marks. Both of them are pretty young. They might have a lot of nerves going into this. If Devo is extremely nervous, or Violent Panda, or both, if they start performing poorly, Pesci cannot carry Market Aces over Orbit. So it's going to come down to a lot of nerves here. The Orbit, obviously, all three have been here. They performed decently at the last land. They beat Market Aces. They swept them. Then they kind of got bounced out pretty quickly after that, but they were competitive here or there versus Northern Flipside. Not actually, they weren't really competitive, but it was Northern Flipside, who were the top, probably 2 teams at that land, besides Cosmic, obviously. So it's hard to fault them there. They kind of got a rough bracket where they didn't get to finish Final Four because they didn't get to play Flying Dutchman or Genesis, which I think that if they would have beat either of those teams. But watch out for Garrett and Turtle. Like, if they can get their offensive going where Moses comes in and cleans up, or if Moses gets confident. Like, I think it's really about if Moses can get confident, like maybe make a few big saves, or get some nice passes, or even a few goals. Like, if he gets confident early, like I think the 3 of them could definitely beat Market Aces. I think this is going to be a really close set. I'm going to give it 3-2 Market Aces. I think Market's slightly better, but at the same time, I think Orbit has more of that poise behind them. So we'll see how that goes from there. But, of course, the European home crowd, like, I want to see how the cheering works. Because, like, obviously, like, in NA, like, everyone gets cheers, obviously. But, you know, the North America side, like, especially Cosmic got a ton more cheers. Then Flipside was also getting a ton of cheers as well, because everyone loves Flipside. But with Orbit and Market, it's going to be strange, because a lot of people consider Pesci the villain. So not as many people like him. And then, but everyone loves Devo, because Devo had a fantastic season. On the flip side, like, no one really hates Orbit, I feel like. Like, no one dislikes Orbit. They're just 3 little kids basically coming in, trying to play at Atlanta. Basically, everyone at least has some respect for Orbit. So I want to see how the crowd reacts. I assume that they're still going to be behind their European squads. I think it's going to be more about just being from Europe rather than, oh, Pesci's like the villain and all that. But we'll see. I still think that series, I think, can go either way. Last time Orbit got the 3-0. I see Market winning this one 3-2. It should be really close. But so we see a little bit a European bias so far during the first round, which I expect to continue throughout this LAN. I think Europe's going to show up. It's weird because I think Europe's actually not as far ahead as North America as last time, but I think Europe will still perform better here than the last LAN, which doesn't really make sense. But I think a lot of players, like, there's only 9 new players coming in for this LAN. 3 of them are on Take 3, which, like, I think a lot of people are just writing them off. Like, I don't think many people are expect them to get higher than 7th. And then, like, Precision Z and Market both have 2 new players coming in. So they're kind of fresh. Like, Europe has a lot of fresh faces coming in, besides the Take 3 of North America, which could end in their downfall. But I'm going to give it to Europe here to start off. Now let's go over to the losers round 1 or lower round 1. Precision Z versus Genesis. Like, this should be a really good game. It really depends. Like, obviously, once we played, like, the first rounds, after that, it comes down to who has looked good so far or who has looked decent in their losses for the lower rounds to try and predict, obviously. Like, my predictions might change on the actual desk day, depending on how these guys are playing, or if I watch some of their practice, yada, yada. But this game should be pretty interesting. Precision Z, they have been highly inaccurate at shooting, but they do get a decent amount of shots on net. I think Pluto is going to be the defining role here. I think Pluto can stop Precision Z. earlier on before they get their shots. Like pretty much all of Genesis, they don't like to get shot on. So if they can hold Precision Z down in shots, like Precision Z hasn't shown that they have the best offensive talent to shoot accurately, like, or get quality shots. So I think Genesis will come away with the victory here. It's going to be close. I could see a 3-2. I think it really comes down to how Classics is playing. Like, if he has those nerves from the first round, maybe after the first round's over, he can kind of regroup and they can get a little bit more comfortable. Last time, Espion had a decent tournament, and I think he'll do the same here. And he will score just enough more than Precision Z, which I expect this to be extremely low scoring. Fair, but I think Genesis will come out on top. I can see a lot of 2-1 victories in this set, but we'll give it to Genesis 3-2. I think it's really going to be really, really close, though. Next up, Take 3 versus Orbit. Again, I have no faith in Take 3 whatsoever. The Orbit has shown that they can mop the floor with Take 3, but Take 3 has had some surprising wins throughout the season. They beat Kings of Urban all the way back in week 1. It's possible, but I think Orbit, all 3 returning from the land, Take 3, all brand new. They're probably going to get destroyed against Flipside, which is not going to help their morale at all. Orbit might have a closer series against Mocket, which could hurt them because if they think they could have won that series, maybe they're really down on themselves. But I think they'll bounce back. Also, they will have just played basically. Like, there's going to be one set where they're off. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It's going to go to round 2 first before we go lower, so that's not going to matter as much. But I still think Orbit, they know what to do. They've been here before, and I think they will win that set pretty handily. I'll give it a 3-1. I think Take 3 will get at least one win, and it'll probably be against Orbit. But their offensive talent is just not enough to do really anything. I think Moses will hold them down pretty easily, and then the Garrett and Turtle duo will do their work that they usually do. Exodus is that top defensive team from North America. They don't let a lot of goals in. Take 3 didn't score a lot of goals until the last few weeks. Like, they've been playing better, but it's still not enough to beat Orbit. We'll move on to round number 2 on the upper bracket. Energy versus Northern. This should be a good one. I think Northern is weaker than they were last land with Mystic in instead of Greasy. Greasy was a really good player. I'm not as high on Mystic as maybe some other players are. To me, like, he's kind of along for the ride versus with Remco and Maestro. Like, I'm not saying he's terrible. Like, he's obviously a really good player, but I think it does bring down their skill level a little bit. And I think Energy can make them pay on the offensive side. Like, Jacob is a great facilitator on the offensive side for Energy. And if they can get past that, like, first wave of defense on the clear attempt, and then they can start setting up plays where Fire comes in to close, or even Sad Jr. comes in to close, then they should be able to get this win. The only thing I'm worried about is if they have Sad Jr. as that third defensive player, if he starts getting exploited by Maestro and Remco, it could end very, very poorly for Energy. Cassad, I think, is a worse defensive player than Fireburner was. But it seems like the way they're rotating lately, Fireburner's going a little bit more on the aggressive side, and Sad's falling back a bit. Now, that could all change, obviously, at this land. They've probably been practicing a ton. I still think Energy is going to win this, though. I think Northern, they fell a little flat at the RLCS finals. I just haven't seen them perform all that well this season. Besides the very first week when they beat Precision Z was actually really impressive. Besides that, I haven't seen them dominate a lot of series moving forward versus teams that matter, and I just don't see it from them here. They could easily win, obviously. Like, if they show up, they're one of the favorites to win this land. They might be, like, if there was Vegas betting odds, they might be the second favorite behind Flipside, and then probably Energy is third, followed by Orbit. But I just don't see it from Northern. They did beat Mocket Aces in 7, but I don't know. I'm just not as confident in Northern as maybe some other people are. On the other side, we got Flipside versus Mocket. Now, I believe Flipside would rather play Orbit here. I think Mocket always provides this weird challenge for Flipside tactics. And sometimes I don't even think they know why. It just seems like the Pashy factor versus Flipside makes all these series really, really close. But last time they played was, I believe, week 3, where Maka won 3-2 in Game 5 overtime. That was also when Flipside was playing their worst, and it was that close to the series. Then Flipside was really dominant after that, and Maka's actually fallen down a little bit. So back when Maka beat them, that looked like when they were playing the best. But lately, like, Devo's been a little bit quieter, Pashy's been quieter, Violent Panda's been playing pretty well. But again, this LAN experience, I don't know. Like, Devo and Violent Panda are huge question marks to me. They could easily flop out of this entire tournament, and it's going to be interesting to see. But I think Flipside is just a much better team, and with that LAN experience, they should win. Again, it's only a 5-game set. 5-game sets in Rocket League are really, really short, but I think Flipside comes out top, and they make a statement here. I think they get the 3-0. Sure, Maki could win the series, and I think this might be the team that has the best chance to beat Flipside in this entire tournament. But I'm thinking Flipside is going to make a statement here, 3-0, and be like, guys, we're here to win this time. We're not coming in second, and they're going to take it there. So, Flipside Tactics moves on. Next up, we have Market Aces versus Genesis. So, Market Aces goes on and beats Orbit, lose to Flipside. They get to play the Genesis boys now. Now, Genesis, again, they're known for their defense, but they're not even as strong of a defensive team as Orbit was. So if Market does pull off that win against Orbit, I don't see Genesis being that much of a problem. Again, though, say Flipside comes in and just wipes the floor with Market, then we might see some more nerves coming in from Devo and Violent Panda, and maybe the whole team in general is just getting a little upset with how their result was. But the Genesis boys, if they come off that big win versus Precision Z, like, this round's always very interesting, lower round 2, because it's a team that's confident because they just won their game versus a team that just lost. But technically, the team that just lost should be better than the team that just won. So it's kind of like trying to reset after those series, and it's only best of 5. So you don't want to give away that first game if you don't have to. This one's tough. I'm going to give it a 2 Market. I think Genesis, if they have to have all their eggs in the basket of Espeon, which they didn't have to for the regional championships, then it could be a little rough. Last time around, Pluto, he started off really slow at the LAN and then picked it up. We'll see if that continues here. Like, if he can pick it up, we'll see. Classics is more of that annoyance of a player on the offensive side. He doesn't really get a lot done for goal purposes, but he keeps that pressure on, and he's more about just trying to keep up possession for Genesis. But in the regional championships and the regional playoffs, they finally started to excel at getting Classics involved offensively. Again, Classics is that newcomer here, so we'll see how the nerves hit him. I still think Market Aces has this. I think at this point, Devo and Violent Panda should be pretty confident. At the same time, if they're not confident at all, they probably would have lost to Orbit. So what I'm banking on is Devo and Violent Panda will at least be pretty confident here, and they will beat Genesis because they beat Orbit. But say this match happened the other way, where Orbit beat Market Aces, then I could see Genesis very easily winning this game, because it could show that Market Aces has a lot of nerves going on. But I got Market Aces here. Next match, Northern Gaming versus Orbit. Again, I'm not that high on Northern Gaming, so we'll see how this game goes. So again, I think Northern is that second favorite, but I think they might fall out like a little bit earlier than last time. So last time, they made it all the way to the finals, and then they lost, and immediately after they lost again pretty easily to Flipside Tactics. I think Northern might have that same scenario happen again, where once they lose a game, they might get down on themselves and forget how to, like, pick it back up in time versus Orbit. And Orbit will probably come out swinging if they lose to Market and beat Take 3, because they'll be really confident, like, after probably a healthy win over Take 3. I think Orbit comes out here on top. I think it really comes down to how Remco and Maestro try and exploit Moses. on the defensive end. But at the same time, Garrett and Turtle usually rotate back pretty effectively. Because Garrett and Turtle, the one thing I like about them is they never go for anything too crazy. Compared to, say, the Energy, how they used to be, where they would go up for, like, two men would go up for an insane play, which is not really needed, and then they're both out of position, and Moses would have to, do a 3v1. I don't see Orbit doing that too often. I think their defensive style can really affect the European teams, and if Europe can't score, and you get a couple solo plays out of Garrett or some insane passes from Turtle, we could see Orbit creating some upsets here. So I got Orbit moving on versus Mocket. We'll do Orbit versus Mocket next. We got... This one should be pretty close. It's so tough because they played before, obviously. And we'll see how that rematch affects these two teams. And again, like, these two teams are big question marks to me because even in that first round, I'm not sure who's actually going to win that game. But I think both of them are really good. And I think they will obviously make it this far. It's tough. Because I think Orbit, once they get warmed up more, if they beat a Northern Gaming, that might make them feel extremely confident going into this game. At the same time, though, Mocket at this point, Devo and Violent Panda should be very confident coming in. Should be a really close set again. I'm going to give this to Mocket. Again, really close set, but I think Mocket takes it. It should be similar to round one. I think Orbit has a better chance to beat Mocket in round one than they do later on in the bracket, just because of that Devo and Violent Panda nerve issue. So I think if Orbit can easily win that round one, I think it'll be a harder time if they face later on in the tournament. So I'll give this to Mocket Aces. Next match, we got Flipside versus Energy. So Energy's that weird team where they're not the greatest defensively, but they've been doing a really good job on the offensive side. They like to keep a decent amount of pressure. Like, they know how to get it out of their zone, which will be really useful against a Flipside Tactics team, which really just tries to pepper shots over and over and over again to keep continued pressure and then score, like, eventually, generally, is what they do. But I think, like, Energy is actually really good at clearing the ball when they might not necessarily have the best opportunity to, that they find a way to. Jacob does that really well. Sad does it really well off the walls. And then, of course, Fire does it well here or there, too. And I think if you can clear the ball versus Flipside, then you have a good chance against them. Even though I'm saying that, I think Flipside is by far the best team in this tournament. I'm going to give it to Flipside. I think it could be a little bit closer than people think. But I think Flipside will take this over Energy. We'll give it a 3-1. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is a best of 7. I'll give it a 4-2 for Flipside Tactics. Moving forward into the grand finals. Next up, we have Energy versus Mocket. Now, it could just be because I really want North America versus Europe final. I think Energy could be the better team than Mocket when it counts. Again, online, when they showed up in the playoffs, they looked really good. They looked a little shaky during the season, but they looked pretty dominant in the online finals. They didn't look great at the LAN last time, but I think it was a little fluky, possibly. I think Energy actually takes the series versus Mocket. I think they will have Fireburner making some huge plays. Like, he knows how to shoot for location. They know how to set up Fireburner to get quality shots. And again, the pressure that Energy can relieve on their own end could be a problem for Mocket. Like, I think Mocket defensively isn't as strong. And so if Energy can keep that pressure on the other side of the half from time to time, I think Mocket could let up a goal here or there. But it should be a really close set. I'm going to give it 4-3 Energy. I think this one could go either way. I think, for me personally, I feel like these 4 teams, like, there's probably 5 teams that can realistically perform well here, like maybe a top 3 finish. And that's Northern Gaming, Mocket, Orbit, and Energy. Like, I don't think Genesis will pull it off here, but they could. But those 5 teams, they all have really good shots. I just think, for some reason, I'm just thinking Northern Gaming might fall a little flat here. But I think NA is better than what people think, and I think Energy can beat Market Aces. But at the same time, I would not be surprised if Europe just comes out really, really strong. But I'm going to give it to Energy here. And we'll get North America versus Europe final. Once again, both number 1 seeds coming in. Energy versus Flipside Tactics. Both of them have a ton of LAN experience. All 6 players were here last time. I believe that's one reason why they're here. But again, this should be a close set. I think Flipside takes it. I don't think Flipside loses a set this entire tournament. They are really impressive. I don't know why this all just bugged out. We'll go back into the full screen here. But there we go. But I think Flipside Tactics have just looked really strong lately, and I just don't see anyone beating them in this tournament. So I got Flipside Tactics for the win here. I would be shocked if they don't win this LAN. I think it would be one of the most disappointing performances for Flipside. All year they've had, there's been 2 major tournaments, basically. The RLC Pro League and the first LAN. Both of the times they came in second. If they don't win this, I think they're going to come out really, really disappointed because they are heavy, heavy favorites in this tournament. They were also pretty heavy favorites in the Pro League, I would say. Well, I wouldn't say heavy favorites, but they were favorites in the Pro League. And they probably weren't even favorited in the first LAN. It was more Northern Gaming at that time was playing a better game. But Flipside showed up at the LAN and performed really well. And I think Greasy, at first I thought, hey, with Mike, they were probably a better team. But Greasy lately has really showed up, and they've looked really strong, the 3 of them combined, just throwing shot after shot on net. No one's even close to their shot numbers, and that just shows how much pressure that they can make. And all 3 can make that unbelievable play for a goal, and I think that's going to be too hard for any of these teams here because everyone's getting a lot better on the defensive side. So you're going to need phenomenal goals to win some games, and I think all 3 players on Flipside can do that, and that's probably the only team here that has all 3 players that can do that consistently. So I think Flipside will come out on top here. Let me know what your bracket is, guys. This was a pretty long video, but I got Flipside over Energy. I'm really hoping for an NA versus EU final. I don't really care who wins, but an NA versus EU final just provides a lot more hype, I feel like, and it's just a lot of fun. So hopefully we get that. But I think Europe holds serve here. They get the LAN victory, and then we'll see where it is in Season 3. We'll see which region has the home field advantage. But so far, we had NA hold serve. I think EU will hold serve here. But I think NA is going to make this more competitive in the later rounds. Watch out for Orbit. Watch out for Energy. And, that Dark Horse and Genesis. You just never know. At the same time, Precision Z, they could surprise in that very first game and beat Of Energy and destroy my whole bracket. That's very, very possible. Should be a really exciting tournament. I believe 7 of these teams out of the 8 have a really good chance at a lot of fun upsets or just fun games. I think Take 3 is maybe out of their element a little bit here, but every team's out of their element to an extent because there hasn't been a lot of LAN, so you never know. But I'm really excited to be on the desk and provide some commentary for these games, hoping for some really, really fun sets. Let's hope for a bracket reset. That'd be nice. In the grand finals, if, say, Energy would have won that set, then they would play again. So let's hope for a bracket reset because that'd be a lot of fun. But should be a good time. Let's see what we have here for the regions, how I predicted out. Last time it was 6-6, NA versus EU. This time, let's see, NA's 1-3, 2-3, 3-3, Europe 4-3, 4-4, 5-4, 6-4, 6-4. So we got 7-5 for Europe this time over NA. Last time it finished 6-6. I think a home field advantage might help a lot. But who knows? Honestly, no one knows. The LAN should be a ton of fun, so make sure you guys watch it. Twitch.tv/Rocket League. And, yeah, I'll see you guys there. Later.